For years, I put so much intention into trying to figure out my life. I would create to-do lists, I would create 5-year plans. I would do everything possible to structure my life in such a way where the end results came to fruition. The things that I wanted, they happened. That I would be safe, that I would be secure, that I would have what I needed. I needed desperately to figure out, my life surroundings and who I was as a person to feel secure, to not feel anxious about who I was. And yet, as much as I would try again and again and again with 5-year plans, with all the things that I tried to succeed at, and some of them were successful, some of them not so successful, it didn't seem to quench that deep thing inside of me that would resurface every once in a while. That's like, okay, what are you doing? Like, you need to figure out your life, man. Like, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Maybe this is all going to fall apart. And again, that anxiety would fuel me to go to the next level. Okay, well, I need to do this. I need to do this. Okay, I should do this. Okay, I need to figure this out. And sure, some of that anxiety and some of that stress was necessary to make important movements. A lot of it was stress that came out of this place of complete reliance on myself. I think every man comes face to face with this. It's okay, well, nobody else is going to help me in this world. Nobody else is going to pay my bills. Nobody else is going to, help me find my partner. Nobody else is going to help me do this stuff. And maybe you had a father figure, maybe you had a father, but maybe you didn't. Maybe you didn't have that mentor in your life and you just really feel like you're doing it on your own. Now, for me, I did have a father and do have a father, and he gave me lots of advice and continues to give me lots of advice. But in some ways, still, I find myself believing this core belief inside that I'm on my own, and it's up to me to figure this thing out, to do this thing. And sure, some people would look at that mentality and be like, yeah, that's what it means to be a man. But here's what I think what we're missing. As a Christian man, as a man of God, if I am always looking towards myself to figure out my life, to figure out my family, to do it all, what's going to happen? Well, for me, I just end up getting burnt out. I just get so stressed and anxious and overwhelmed, I fizzle out. But what does Jesus say? Jesus said, all who are weary and heavy laden, come to me, and I will give you rest. Take up my yoke. And so I heard this from John Ortberg, and it was so well said. He says that Jesus didn't invite us, as men, particularly, I'm talking about in this context, to just a vacation when we're feeling stressed or burnt out or like we can't handle the responsibility and the weight of the world. No, he says, enter the yoke with Jesus, because a skillful carpenter recognizes which animal in the yoke is strong enough, because these yokes would pull these carts, right? The carpenter would recognize which animal was stronger, and he'd manipulate the yoke or in such a way where the main pulling power was on the stronger animal. Now, how does that connect? How did John Ortberg connect it? Well, he connected by saying, Jesus is inviting you into his yoke. He is going to do the pulling power. He recognizes that you're tired. He recognizes that you're ill-equipped in a lot of ways, but you need to rely on him. Rely on him. Okay, here's the other piece. In Psalm 127, it says, unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. Unless the Lord builds the city, the watchman stays awake in vain. It is in vain that you rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil, for he gives sleep to his beloved. I don't think I've ever fully internalized that, but I think this is the balance as a man, okay, is to recognize, yes, there is this responsibility. Yes, there's the call to provide and protect and to love and to lead. And so much of this channel is about how you can embody those things, how you can follow Christ and walk in his spirit as you live out those traits and those characteristics and transform into that type of man. But in conjunction with that, we need to recognize, I think, as men, that we can't do that on our own. Like, we can't muscle our way into figuring out our life, into what tomorrow holds, because there's so many pieces of our life that we just don't know about yet. Maybe you're trying to find your next job, or like how you're going to get onto this next phase of life, or how you're going to meet your future spouse. And there's questions that like I can't answer for you. I can't help you figure out in a real way. So what do we do? And I'm asking myself that same question when I'm filled with anxiety and overwhelmed and I don't know where to go next, or even I'm worried about staying in the same place. I'm like, okay, I need to change. I need to mix something up. I need to do more. But what do I do? Where do I go in the midst of that? I believe for us as men, our habit, and this is just what I'm learning, guys, we need to surrender to Christ. We need to surrender to Christ. God, I surrender these anxieties to you. I surrender these worries to you. I surrender these plans to you. Help me figure out my life. Lead me one step at a time. My wife says something, I think she heard it from a book or something, that I think is really helpful. If you don't know what you want to do with your life, just figure out what you want to do right now. Like, what is the right next step to take now? And you can ask God for that help. In a world that is so hurried and busied and self-preoccupied, what do I need to be doing next? How do I make a name for myself? How do I, show the world that I matter? We're trying to gain at those core needs of security and significance, trying to, order the world around fulfilling those needs for us. But maybe, just maybe, we should let go of trying to, make so much sense of our life in order that we can finally have peace. Because maybe the peace is on the other side of letting go and trusting Christ, even though we don't know what's on the other side. And we don't know what our life is going to become. And we don't know when we're going to meet that person. We don't know when we're going to get that job. We don't know if any of that's going to happen. Can we be at peace? Well, not if our hope is in those things. Not if my peace is determinant fully on those things going in the way that I want them to go. My life going in the way that I want them to go. And I think that's why there's so much stress and anxiety and overwhelm, because we're so petrified about our life not going the way that we want it to go, that idea, it scares the crap out of us. And it petrifies us. And it paralyzes us. But I just want to offer you this. God's path for your life is so much better, is so much more meaningful, so much more glorious, so much more quiet and simple, and maybe even ordinary. But if we can learn to be content and trust Christ in those small steps, I believe we could experience real peace. Because we're not obsessed with, God, make sure you're preserving my legacy. Make sure you're leading me on this path where I'm going to be successful and I'm going to be, okay, can I let go of that self-focus and just say, God, use me. Use my life. I don't need to figure it out for my sake. Help me lose my life. Because I think this figuring out of our life, this like when we're focusing so much attention on, okay, what am I going to do and how am I going to do this and what's going to happen and all this stuff, it's our attempt to cling so tightly on our life and make it exactly what we always dreamed it would be. But Christ said, whoever clings on to his life will lose it. But whoever gives up his life for my sake will find it. So maybe that would be my encouragement to you today. Instead of working so hard to figure out your life, let go of the self-obsession, the self-focus, and seek and ask God, how can I actually give up my life today for you? Thank you, brothers, for watching. Thanks to everyone who supports on the Kindred Brothers Club. I appreciate you guys. Until next time, keep pursuing the mission.